Still a Little Nervous, Chapter 2. A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction written and narrated by Mira Rose. Artwork by Cocoscartoons on Instagram. You can find a link to her social media in the description box below. Go give her lots of love for this super cute art. Now then, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to stay up to date on the latest parts of your favorite fanfiction, including this one, and leave a like and a comment for the YouTube algorithm. If you don't know what to comment, put Marinette was no good at confessing. Now then, please enjoy Still a Little Nervous, Chapter 2. Marinette Dupang Chang. Marinette sat, nervous, next to Adrien on the subway with their bag of goodies, nervous as ever and trying to keep herself from seeing the kind of flower he bought. She would know if she tried, but thankfully she wasn't snooping. Kind of. When she'd gone to look in the bag, she brushed fingers with him and somehow ended up holding his hand. How bold! Then again, Cat Noir was super confident, so it's no wonder he made the first move. Sure, she'd brushed fingers with him before at the store, but she'd been too shy to go farther than that. Had he even noticed? A sinking truth ate her stomach. He'd notice if she were Ladybug, but now that he knew she was both Ladybug and Marinette, would he accept her feelings for him? Finding out he was her beloved partner and most trusted confidant only made it harder to confess. Oh, who was she kidding? Marinette was no good at confessing, secret identity or not. But this was a new chapter, and Adrien said this was a date. A date! She shouldn't be so down on herself. The circumstances spoke for themselves. She was holding his hand, after all. His hand! Her! Sugar and cookies. She might faint from a heat wave in the middle of October, judging by her pink cheeks. Marinette tried to beeline her way through the bakery without garnering her suspicion from her parents, but there was no way she'd let go of Adrien's hand on purpose, so her efforts were in vain. Her parents' smiles and an exchange of glances did nothing to soften the pink on her cheeks, but thankfully they didn't ask questions, choosing instead to welcome Adrien once more to their home as they went upstairs. "Slow down," Adrien said, squeezing her hand. Of course, Marinette, being Marinette, didn't slow down. She stopped completely at the gesture while climbing the stairs, causing Adrien to slam into her before they tumbled. Elbows and kneecaps and stair noses blended together into bumps of pain as they fell. Ah! Marinette gasped, more in embarrassment than pain. You okay? Adrien flipped over to check on her. Her face may as well be tattooed pink at this point. Yep, she exclaimed, sitting up a little too quickly and ramming her forehead into his, causing both of them to recoil. Full of energy, I see. Adrien held his head as Marinette sat in horror, not bothering to nurse the injury of klutziness. Sorry, I'm so... Marinette could slap herself. Here. Adrien offered her his hand. It's all good. Come on. Marinette took his hand, embarrassed as she was, as Tiki gathered the flyaways from the bag together. Thanks. No problems. Helped lighten the mood, don't you think? It did? Marinette blinked. Yeah, I mean, I'm still nervous, but I was super nervous coming here. It's nice to laugh with my friend, you know? There's that word again. Marinette narrowed her eyes before sighing, taking her hand away. I suppose. Her voice was flat. Like I said before, I want to date you, Marinette. The best relationships are built on friendship, don't you think? A few things flipped through her mind before she answered. I suppose. Her final answer. But it doesn't mean it isn't soul-crushing with the right timing. Soul-crushing? Being just a friend to your crush. She looked up at him with defeat in her eyes. Don't I know it? He laughed. Same thing's happened to you, huh? Marinette, finally composed, stared long and hard at him. This was the emotional equivalent of getting the timing of sliding doors wrong. Let's go upstairs. It was the safe response she'd opted for. Building the dollhouse was nice. As they painted chairs and laughed over Tiki chasing Plagg around the room, Marinette felt herself begin to relax, finally allowing herself to sit comfortably with Adrien and her feelings. When was the last time something like that happened? Maybe when playing games together? When she had to focus on something at the same time? Yeah, maybe that's it. Sure, it was surreal talking to Tiki and Adrien at the same time, and she'd learned about Plague's antics firsthand. She'd always been skeptical of Cat Noir's description of him, but now she knew the truth. A few hours passed, both relaxed and tensed and full of brushed fingers and abrupt apologies. This not-so-suave side of Adrien was cute, and she was happy to see it. She was happy to be the reason behind it. Oh, let's be honest. Less than suave Adrien was still 10 times less awkward than her. But oh, the sparks that came when they showed proof of their nervousness at the same time? Marinette hadn't ever felt such electricity, or had ever had so validating. These moments, this time she spent in her room with him, made it all worth it. This date made her heart-throbbing feelings worth it. She was a glob of jelly that finally found a mold. The dollhouse looked fantastic. It really did. Even Plagg, who insisted he didn't want one, was jealous. So, Adrien began, his fingers trailing the edges of his pockets. Marinette read an article of a magazine he was featured in that if a guy puts his hands in his pockets around you, he's comfortable, so he wasn't comfortable around her? She didn't know if that was a bad thing. Marinette? Huh? Oops. She hadn't been listening. Can we do my place next time? He ran his hand through his hair before sliding it down and into his pocket. You know, for Plagg. She couldn't suppress her smile, but wasn't confident enough for a grin. Like a date? She clasped her hands behind her back, blocking him from seeing her crossed fingers. Adrien laughed, but it wasn't hearty. Yeah, like I said before, I'd like to date you, Marinette. She watched him rock his body weight and realized he was far more nervous than she was. And it was her fault. After everything, after all of this, she hadn't told him. Marinette hadn't told him she liked him. Me too, she said, swallowing back the frog trying to leap from her stomach into her throat. I'd really like that too. You would? Adrien's smile turned into that of relief. Yeah, because Ooh, this was hard. Even after his actions, words, and body language today. Marinette made the mistake of trying to maintain eye contact as she confessed. Oops. She short-circuited as his smile grew ever wider, and he stepped in. What was that? He asked, his voice softer. Oh, sugar and cookies. How could she respond when his thumb touched her chin? She kept glancing at him, then the ground, then him, then the... May I kiss you? She could barely squeak as he looked. No, gazed into her eyes, not leaving a chance to leave. Even her voice couldn't escape her. Fingers trembling, she cupped his face, each hand trailing from jawline to ear. And then... oh, and then... the singular heartbeat that slammed against her ribcage as he touched lips with hers knocked the wind out of her, beating each pulse so harshly that she felt its rhythm in her neck, her forearms, her chest, everywhere, drowning out her thoughts with the feeling. She didn't want to break away from his warmth and validation, but she'd stood herself on tippy toes when the moment came, and her calves were protesting. Sliding down, her hands tracing his neck, Marinette looked up and swallowed to see Adrien covering his lower face and looking away. His face was pink. Oh, good. This wasn't just some random kiss for him. Sorry, he said, his free hand gripping her shoulder. I need a moment to compose myself. Me too, she said, recovering her hands from his neck to feel how hot her cheeks were. When they managed to sneak a glance at the other again, they burst out laughing. Oh, how wonderful it was to laugh amid her heartbeats and flushed face. So, tomorrow? He asked. Yeah, tomorrow, Marinette said, still a little stiff. Good. He slid his hands in his pockets and spent a moment taking her in. What? Hands still in his pockets, Adrien leaned in, placing a chaste kiss on her lips. It was quite a different experience than the one moments before, but Marinette wouldn't change it for the world. And then he left, leaving her dazed at the doorstep. What about the flower? Tiki asked, who'd excused herself for the sake of privacy. The flower? Marinette repeated. Oh, yeah, the flower! She bolted upstairs, tossing discarded bags until she found the one she'd been avoiding. Tugging it out of the plastic, Marinette gasped. It was a lilac. Well, a faux lilac. A flower that meant first love. She was his first love. Oh, sugar and cookies. They weren't each other's first crushes. Crushes burn and end. They were each other's first love. Putting the flower in a vase, even though it wasn't real, Marinette placed it beside the dollhouse, staring at it as the giggles swept over her. Love. First love. She was Adrien's first love. Oh, how wonderful it is that Kat hadn't moved on. How wonderful that she happened to be the girl under the mask. How incredible that she'd gotten to know a side of him that her classmates hadn't seen. How blessed their relationship was, forming a square so acute it was easy to miss. Of course, she was still nervous. How could she not be? All of the validation in the world wasn't enough to solidify the nerves that came at the start of a relationship. Ah, yes. She was still a little nervous, but that was all right. Marinette would take being a little nervous if it meant growing into a relationship with Adrien Crest. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to stay up to date on the latest parts of your favorite fanfiction. Don't forget, while we're there, to hit the like button and leave a comment in support of the YouTube algorithm and the creator. If you don't know what to comment, put post-reveal relationship. Now then, please enjoy other videos on this Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction channel, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!